Hey there, and welcome to Authentically ADHD. I'm your host, Carmen, and I am so glad that you're here. This is a podcast where we get real about ADHD. No filters, no judgment, a safe space to explore and learn and grow. If you're here, it's because you want to take a deep dive into the world of ADHD, and trust me, we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. Now, you're probably wondering, why did I start this podcast? Well, in true ADHD fashion, it all started very impulsively. One day, I thought, I should start a podcast, especially with all this paperwork that I have and all these notes that I have trying to understand my own ADHD. And the next thing I knew, here I am, sharing thoughts with you. I don't know, 200, 100 episodes later? I don't know. I lose track of time. I'm time blind. Are you? Anyways, when you have ADHD, ideas come fast, and sometimes you just gotta roll with them. Honestly, this podcast was born out of my passion for understanding ADHD in a deeper way with the newest research. You see, pills don't teach skills. That's something I've learned over the years. Medication can help and it's a great tool to use, but true growth, that comes from knowledge, understanding, and actionable skills. And so that's what I want to share with you. Research-backed insights, practical tips, and lived experiences of someone who's been there. Now, a little bit about me. I'm not just a host of this podcast. I'm also an early childhood special education teacher, which means I've spent years understanding how children learn, grow, and thrive in ways that work for them, especially when they're neurodiverse. And I'm also a certified life and performance coach, guiding people to unlock their full potential in both their personal and professional lives. But here's the thing that makes me a little different. I'm also a late diagnosed ADHDer. And on top of that, I self-identify as being on the autism spectrum. So when I talk about ADHD, it's not just from a professional perspective, it's from lived experience, because I get it. I know what it's like to feel like your brain is running at full speed while everyone else is moving at a different pace, and you have instructions that are in Japanese and upside down, and everybody else got them in their own language. Throughout this podcast, I'll share all kinds of insights about navigating life with ADHD, from the everyday struggles to the strengths that we can celebrate. We'll talk about everything from time management to relationships to self-advocacy, and all about how to live authentically in a world that often asks us to be anything but. Whether you have ADHD yourself or you want to understand it better, you are in the right place. So, let's get started. Hey there, my ADHD tribe. I have an offer for you. Do you ever feel like you're constantly juggling, but somehow always dropping the ball? You're not alone. We've all been there. I struggle still to manage time, stay organized, and to keep track of the never-ending to-do list. I'm Carmen, and I get it. Trust me, that's why I have created Thriving Authentically with ADHD, Executive Functions and Coping Strategies. It's a course designed to help you take control of your ADHD brain instead of letting it control you. But here's the kicker. It's not just a course. It's a journey. For only $25, you'll get access to about 3 hours of exclusive ADHD-friendly content that breaks down the executive functions in simple terms and explains why your ADHD brain works in the way that it does. And most executive functions, most importantly, it'll teach you practical, research-backed coping strategies that you can start using today. From working memory struggles to time blindness to emotional regulation, we cover it all. Plus, you'll get a workbook in your email packed with interactive exercises to help you reflect on your own ADHD journey, track your progress, and apply what you've learned at your own pace. But that's not all. You also will get 2 personalized coaching sessions where we can dive into your specific challenges and create strategies that work for you. No more one-size-fits-all solutions, just real, authentic, tailored support. And the best part, you get all this for just $25. That's less than a cost of a meal out. Plus, with my proven strategies, you can start improving your executive function skills in no time. Imagine finally understanding your ADHD brain and learning how to thrive and not just survive. Don't wait too long. The spots are limited. Sign up today and let's get started on your journey to thriving authentically with ADHD. Hey there, my friend, and welcome back to Authentically ADHD. I'm Carmen, and today's topic is a good one. Have you ever felt like you just don't know yourself? Like your brain is a mystery that you can't solve? I see your hand. Yep, you too and me. You are not alone. Today we're talking about ADHD and self-awareness. What does that even mean? Why it's so tricky for us? And how to start building trust in ourselves anyways. So we're going to go deeper into the science, share real life stories because I'm no exception to these rules, and even throw in a little humor because sometimes laughing at our quirks is the best medicine. In this episode, I'm going to explain why ADHD makes self-awareness so hard, from executive functions to time blindness, how that struggle feels, the frustration, self-doubt, and emotional roller coasters that come along with it. And then, of course, we're going to dive into practical strategies for building self-trust and insight. I'm going to break it down into tips for teens and adults because teens that are diagnosed should be taught these skills. Pills don't teach skills. Just because your child is medicated does not mean that they're being treated fully. I fully believe that these tools and things that we need to use in order to make the playing field level for our brains, we need to be self-aware. We need to learn from things like this, and we need to teach our kids how to do these things while they're kids so that as they grow up, it just becomes part of how they are. Since our brains and our lives can be a bit different and change as we grow up. So, are you ready? Let's get started with why ADHD brains struggle with self-awareness. Let's define what we mean by self-awareness because it's kind of a meta term. Simply put, it's your ability to self-reflect, self-evaluate, and think about your own thinking, which is metacognition. Think of it as like your brain's mirror. It lets you see your behaviors, your emotions, and thoughts clearly and learn from them. In psychology terms, it's often called metacognition. Researchers note that self-awareness is a key executive function, basically one of our brain's management skills. Unfortunately, ADHD often comes with executive functioning challenges, and yes, self-awareness is one of those tricky pieces. Dr. Russell Barkley, a leading ADHD researcher, actually puts it very bluntly. ADHD is a disorder of self-regulation. We struggle to adult not because we're lazy or bad, but because the brain skills that manage ourselves were delayed or impaired. In fact, Barkley's team points out that ADHD often involves deficits in things like self-restraint, self-awareness, self-control of emotion, self-motivation, and self-reflection. In other words, our internal boss is weaker. Kristen Carter, my coach, another example and expert of the host. Okay, can I start that sentence again? Because that did not do her any justice. My coach, Kristen Carter, another expert in ADHD field and host of the I Have ADHD podcast, explains it a little more simply. ADHD is a disorder of self-regulation. We struggle to focus because our executive functions are deficient, and we can't regulate ourselves properly. So let's break down the key reasons behind all of this. First of all, the deficit in executive functions. So the brain CEO, planning tasks, managing actions, and ADHD, as you know, these are on the lower side. One of the main executive functions is self-awareness, along with inhibition and working memory, etc. Because ADHDers often have impaired executive functions, our ability to notice and reflect on ourselves is less mature. Barkley even describes ADHD as sort of a self-regulation deficit disorder, meaning most executive function skills are lagging, and this isn't your fault. It's literally how the ADHD brain is developed. Then there's the weak working memory. Working memory is your mental scratch pad, if you will. It holds pieces of information so you can use them in the moment or hold them in your brain. Working memory, especially visual and spatial memory, often underperforms in ADHD brains. Kristen Carter highlights this. Our working memory should help us understand where we are in time and space, but ADHD brains tend to live too much in the right now. We literally forget about what just happened or where we put things in literal seconds. This weak working memory means that we struggle to recall past actions or project future consequences, both of which are vital for self-awareness. Then there's time blindness. Related to working memory as a phenomenon you've probably heard before and probably experienced, time blindness. Dr. Barkley calls ADHD a nearsightedness to the future. He explains that people with ADHD are often on this now, or not now, but tend to lose track of time, and we suck at future planning. He didn't say that, I said that. On practical level, this means that deadlines sneak up on us, and while we hyper-focus on immediate tasks or hyperfixations without realizing how much time they're taking, kind of like recording this podcast and wanting to get it done while my hair is sitting with dye on it, knowing it's not going to damage my hair. Once it gets to a certain point, it's just going to stop. We don't realize how long it takes. As one occupational therapist blog put it, ADHD time blindness is a consistent inability to stay aware of time and consider the future in the present moment. If you feel like hours can vanish in a blink, like you just started watching Netflix and suddenly it's midnight, like you have no internal clock, that's the classic ADHD time warp. Without a good sense of past versus future, it's tough to reflect on what really happened or plan for what will happen, which is very hurtful to our self-awareness. Then we add in emotional and cognitive overload. Let's not forget emotional regulation, a cousin to self-awareness. ADHD often comes with intense emotions. A study describes ADHDers as having an overactive amygdala, which is the emotion center, and underactive frontal cortex, the part that, controls and regulates that stuff. The result, we feel things strongly, and we have a harder time stepping back. We have reactions that are disproportionate to the situations. When we have an emotional wave, self-reflection goes out the window. Ever snapped at a loved one and then immediately felt guilty but couldn't explain why? Welcome to ADHD emotions. When our emotions are surging and we just simply cannot focus or do anything, it's like racing thoughts. Self-monitoring simply does not happen because there's too much going on in our brain. It's like trying to inspect your car while it's driving at 100 miles per hour. Hard to do. Probably impossible. So to sum it up, our ADHD brains have weaker mental checking stations. We're built to do and do lots of things at once, but not naturally built to watch ourselves doing it. So the combination of the deficits, fuzzy time perception, and big feelings makes self-awareness a bit elusive. It's not a character flaw, it's brain wiring. As Kristen Carter gently reminds us, it's not because you're lazy or dumb. It's because your executive function skills are deficient. So, because of these brain differences, not being very self-aware in ADHD can lead to some painful and confusing feelings. Let's be real. It's very frustrating. You make the same mistakes over and over again, like feeding the dog after work instead of before again, and you can't put your finger on the reason why. Kristen Carter admits that making the same mistakes over and over, it is in part because of the lack of self-awareness we have. We may constantly feel, why do I keep doing this, and blame ourselves for not paying attention or being quote-unquote careless. This frustration often spirals into self-doubt. If you're always confused about how you ended up here, it's easy to start thinking there's something wrong with you. People with ADHD commonly internalize shame. Maybe your teacher said you were lazy, or your boss yelled, "just focus" one too many times. Dr. Saline notes that ADHDers often have more self-criticism and have, to work extra hard to develop that metacognition. So if you've tried and failed at organizing or remembering, you may feel like you should know better, even though neuroscientifically, your brain literally is struggling in those areas. Worse, poor self-awareness can feed into emotional turmoil. The Very Well Mind article on ADHD emotional dysregulation points out that intense emotions in ADHD can create self-doubt and uncertainty surrounding your own feelings. What does that sound like to me? Gaslighting your freaking self. That's terrible. Imagine overreacting to something, aka a spilled coffee feels like the end of the world, and afterward thinking, am I crazy? Why do I feel like this strongly? Am I making too much out of nothing? Your brain's amygdala fires off a storm, and then your frontal lobe struggles to calm it down. All of this leads to a painful cycle, and you feel overwhelmed, then you regret your decision, and then you start doubting if your emotions were even valid at all. On the flip side, others see you acting impulsive or scattered and often misinterpret you. They might label you as irresponsible, chaotic, unmotivated, which really hurts. For example, in school, a student with ADHD might frequently miss deadlines or seem to procrastinate, not because they don't care, but because they have difficulty estimating how much time has passed or how long a task will take. Teachers sometimes think that this is a willful behavior, not realizing that it's actually their brain wiring. Or maybe their friends get annoyed because you interrupt conversations. And people, or maybe a partner thinks you're aloof when really you just got lost in thought. The gap between internal experience, I'm overwhelmed and panicked, and external behavior, she doesn't care, is real. And the gap fuels the frustration. In short, struggling with self-awareness often looks like repeating mistakes, feeling confused and anxious about your own actions, and battling guilt and self-criticism when others misread your ADHD traits. It's literally emotionally draining, and it can lead to burnout and compassion fatigue and all these things. But here's the hopeful flip side. Knowing why can help you reframe these feelings. When you realize it's an ADHD wiring, you can start treating yourself with compassion instead of blame, guilt, and shame. Realizing that your brain is just wired differently and it's not wrong is literally the first step in taking to trust yourself. Next up, we are going to get into inside versus outside, living with ADHD from both sides, and we're going to get into the practical strategies, especially for teens and for adults. I separated them into two categories because I felt that would be helpful. So, right after a word from our sponsors, we're going to get right back into it. Hey there. If you're looking for a game changer in managing your ADHD, let me tell you about something that's made a huge impact on my life. Focused, the adult ADHD group coaching program by Kristen Carter. This isn't just another program. It's a community. It's a roadmap. It's a lifeline for adults with ADHD who want to thrive. Inside of Focus, you'll find weekly coaching calls with Kristen packed with actionable insights, a supportive community of adults who get it. They get what it's like to live with ADHD. You'll get tools and strategies that actually work for our brains. No fluff, just real results. I've been a part of Focus for over a year, and let me tell you, it's where I've learned so much of what I share with you on Authentically ADHD. It's been a game changer for me, and I think it could be for you too. And here's the best part. If you use my link to join, we both save money. It's a win-win. So if you've been looking for the right ADHD support, this is your sign to check it out. Head to the link in my show notes to learn more and sign up. Let's thrive together with tools and support that we need to succeed. Are you also loving what we're doing on Authentically ADHD but want to take your experience to the next level? Well, I have got something for you. Introducing the Authentically ADHD Patreon, your VIP pass to the ultimate ADHD support hub. As a Patreon member, you'll unlock exclusive perks like early access to every single episode, hear it before anyone else does, a treasure trove of resources that I've made, tools, guides, and worksheets to help you thrive in everyday aspects of life, direct coaching opportunities with me designed to help you harness your ADHD powers, and the cherry on top, an incredible community of like-minded individuals who just get it. You're not alone on this journey, and together we can be unstoppable. By joining Patreon, you're not just supporting the podcast, you're fueling a movement. Together, we're breaking stigmas, embracing authenticity, and creating a world where ADHD is seen as a strength and not just a struggle. So what are you waiting for? Head over to patreon.com/authenticallyADHD and join the family today. Let's keep growing, thriving, and showing up authentically together. Hope to see you over there. Back to the show. Hi, this is a disclaimer that I am a early childhood special education teacher. I am a certified life and performance coach, and I am a podcaster. All right, I am not a medical doctor, and none of this information should be used in supplement of a medical professional and or therapy. All right, so you've made it to the interview stage. Congrats. Now you have to keep it together for half an hour or so and impress someone enough to hire you. Easy, right? Cue the sarcastic drum roll. Interviews can be especially nerve-wracking for those of us with ADHD because they're basically a performance with high stakes. Lots of unknowns and require all the executive function and social filtering that we can muster. Many ADHD job seekers worry about things like, what if I ramble on and say something stupid? What if I zone out and miss a part of a question? What if I'm running late because I misjudged traffic? What if my resume has a typo and I didn't notice it? The struggle is real. Let's start with a cringe but educational story. A career coach shared the tale of a client, let's call him George, who had an ADHD and an offbeat sense of humor. George landed an interview for a job he really wanted. He did a lot right, polished up his resume with a friend's help, researched the company thoroughly. He even wrote a clever cover letter that got him in the door. The day of the interview, he arrived on time, he dressed sharply, and he was determined to impress. Then, about 7 minutes in, the manager asked a fairly standard question. How do you handle change? And George's ADHD brain, ever so quick on the draw, decided this was the perfect moment for a joke. He quipped, I handle change by keeping it in a jar at my dresser. Get it? Pocket change, coins? Yeah. He later described the hiring manager's face as a mix between confusion and is this guy serious? That one impulsive joke derailed the interview. George spent the next few minutes trying to backpedal and prove that he could handle actual change, but the damage was done, and he didn't get the job. Now, every ADHD interview story ends in flames. Not every ADHD interview ends in flames, but it illustrates how our impulsivity or our enthusiasm can sometimes backfire, but in a good way. In these high-pressure moments, the good news is there are concrete strategies to handle common ADHD interview challenges. Let's go through a few of these tips. Over-prepare in a good way. Create a script for yourself. Ask a friend to practice with. Ask ChatGPT to write you questions to ask you about yourself. And if it's for a specific job, the more specificity you give ChatGPT, the better questions it'll give you, the better information, whatever it is. So if you are preparing for a job to be, let's say, a teacher, ask ChatGPT to ask you questions as if they were people who interview teachers. and see what comes up. Then you can even go down to 5th grade teacher, language teacher, special education teacher, whatever it is. Next one, practice active listening and not interrupting. Many of us with ADHD don't realize that when we accidentally talk over somebody or miss part of what they said because our mind was racing in an interview, interrupting the interviewer or asking or answering a different question than what was asked can be a deal breaker. A solution here is to simulate a mock interview with a friend or coach like I talked about. Have them actually pose some questions. So have ChatGPT bring up the questions and then do it in person. Making yourself actually practice not talking until they've finished asking the questions. Some experts even suggest going to a social setting with the sole mission of practicing listening, literally attending a gathering and focusing on letting others finish and only responding when asked. It's like a crash course in conversational self-control. In an actual interview, you're not sure that you understood a question, say. Maybe your attention wavered for a second. I mean, it happens. It is perfectly fine and polite to ask, could you please repeat or rephrase that? I want to be sure that I addressed your question correctly. That's far better than guessing and going off on a tangent or telling a joke. Just by the way, jokes are not great for interviews unless you're interviewing to be a comedian. Next one. Manage the logistics to avoid late show horror. Don't want to be late? Practice the drive the day before at the same time of your interview. That's key. At the same time that you will have to be driving there for your interview. See exactly how far it is away, especially if you've never been there before, and go at the time that you would need to leave, that you believe you would need to leave. See if you show up on time. If so, great. If not, add buffer time. Also, add buffer time anyways, because Lord knows your ADHD brain's going to forget to put gas in the tank, to forget to get cash for the meter for parking or whatever it is. So I just want to let you know, just essentially remove as many variables as possible that morning. So even if ADHD throws you a curveball, where are my keys? I don't know what to wear. You've got time to handle it without sprinting into the interview room, disheveled and apologizing. Set yourself up for success the night before or the day before. Practice all the things. Set out your clothes. Practice the drive. And I swear it will have you a lot more confident. You'll be able to sleep better and you won't be running in with your shirt on backwards saying sorry, sorry, sorry. Last but not least, reframe ADHD weaknesses as strengths. Interviews that often had that dreaded, and what are your greatest weakness questions? Or they list qualities like must be organized, great time management, and in a job description, which, let's face it, are not our shining areas, but rather than panic, plan on how to address these honestly but positively. You don't have to blurt out, well, I have ADHD, so I'm really terrible at time management. Instead, you could say something like, I've learned that I need to be very mindful of my time, so I use tools like calendars and alerts to keep myself on track. I haven't missed a deadline in the past year. If you worry about your attention to detail, you might add, I know I'm a big picture thinker, so I always double or triple check my work or have a colleague review important documents. I've made that a routine to ensure quality. In other words, focus on the solutions and self-awareness that you bring to the table. This shows that you're proactive and resilient. If you have a job coach or strategies you can use, it's okay to mention them briefly as proof that you can handle these challenges. And emphasize the flip side. Maybe your weakness of being easily bored means your cultivated strengths in creativity and efficiency, because you find faster ways to go to get mundane tasks done. Turn that narrative around in your favor. By combining these tactics, you'll walk into your next interview more prepared and more confident. Sure, you are still going to be nervous. That's normal. You're human. But you'll have some muscle memory to fall back on from practicing. And if an impulse does slip out, because nobody's perfect, don't beat yourself up. Recover with grace and humor if appropriate or possible. One last note on this. If your ADHD is severely impacting your interviews despite trying these tips, consider whether you want to disclose your ADHD to the employer at some point in the interview. This is a very personal decision, and there's no one right answer. Some people choose to disclose it up front, during the interview, or after they get the job. For example, explaining, I'm someone who has ADHD, which means I have lots of creative energy, but I may take extra care with organization. I use tools to help me with organization, time management, and all that. Disclosing can help if you need accommodations, even during the interview. Say, like more time for a written test or more time to process and answer the question. However, many prefer not to disclose until after they're hired, or not at all, due to stigma. It's entirely up to your comfort level. Now, let's go over strategies for thriving in the workplace, because yes, you can, even if you have ADHD. Now, you've landed the job. Woohoo! Take a moment to celebrate that victory. Seriously, many ADHDers struggle to even get to this point, so give yourself credit. Now the journey continues. How do you thrive at work when you have ADHD? The goal isn't just to survive by the skin of your teeth each day, but to truly flourish, to make the most of your talents. Workspaces, especially traditional ones, can be challenging environments for your neurodivergent mind. Open offices with constant chatter, the 9-to-5 schedule that might not match your sensory and executive function overload. But fear not, there are proven strategies and accommodations that can turn the workplace from an obstacle course to a tailored playing field for your success. We are going to list out some of these top tips for thriving on the job with ADHD. I'm going to note that if you want to read more about each tip, I want you to visit my Substack page. I'm also Carmen Authentically ADHD over there. There will be a lot more detail underneath each one of these tips because I don't want the podcast going too long, and I'd also love for you to check out some more of the content that I've put out on Substack. So, a quick list of tips. Number 1, optimize your workspace to minimize distractions in whatever way that works for you. 2, master time management and externalize it if needed. We struggle with time blindness and we don't have an internal clock, so you got to do that. 3, leverage ADHD hyperfocus with boundaries if you can. Using that hyperfocus on getting work tasks done can really, really help. But you need to set boundaries to make sure that you're eating, not staying up too late, and using the bathroom. Advocate for flexibility. Not everyone has the luxury of a flexible job, but if you do have a wiggle room, use it. Number 5, use accommodations and tools. They exist for a reason. Number 6, play to your strengths and communicate clearly. Thriving isn't just about patching up your weaknesses. It's also about leaning into what you do best, right? Also, you might want to tell your boss things like, I excel in client interactions, but I notice I sometimes miss small scheduling details. It helps a lot. Believe me. Ask me how I know. Probably from experience. It's been great. So, before leaving the workplace topic, a quick shout out to support networks. ADHD adults often benefit from having a mentor or coach at work. If your company has mentorship programs, join it and pair up with someone who is at a senior level who can offer guidance and maybe help you navigate any workplace politics or unwritten rules that ADHD folks sometimes might miss. Now, most workplaces, they may have coaches and things like that, but none of them are very tailored to ADHD, and even if you disclose that you have ADHD, they probably have to learn about it first. So, consider finding an ADHD coach online. Hint, hint, I do that to help you with your personal goals at work. I've done that for a client of mine, and since his promotion from colleague to manager, he has been thriving and under a lot less anxiety. Finally, if you're a manager or colleague of someone with ADHD, or perhaps you suspect it, know that your support and understanding can make an enormous difference. Simple gestures like being patient if they need instructions repeated, or not taking things personally if they forget, or even directly asking, how can I help you succeed? Is there something I can help or something I can do to make this task easier to manage? It'll really make that person feel heard and seen. As we wrap up this deep dive into ADHD and career choices, let's take a moment to reflect. If there's one message to take away, it's that your career path may not look like a straight line, and that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's authentically ADHD. You might zigzag through a few different jobs or take longer to quote-unquote find yourself, but each twist and turn is teaching you something new about what ignites your passion and what doesn't. Yeah, you're going to face challenges. We all do. Picking a career that aligns with your strengths, pushing through an education, training hurdles, navigating all the nerve-wracking interviews, and setting yourself up for success. You carry unique assets, though, even though some days you might feel like the deck is stacked against you. The world needs us creative problem solvers and big picture thinkers, energetic doers and idea machines, and people who aren't afraid to challenge the norms. All qualities that many of us have in spades. Before we sign off, here's a bit of encouragement. If you're an ADHDer contemplating your next move, try to replace any negative self-talk with I'll never stick to anything, I'm a mess, I'll never succeed, with a reframe. Maybe you haven't found the right fit yet, or maybe you weren't given the support you needed. That's not a personal failure. Keep advocating for yourself and keep experimenting with what works for you. Your career path might end up being something wonderfully unconventional that you design for yourself. And if you're already in a job and struggling, know that many have been in your shoes and have turned it around. Small changes, even as simple as getting a whiteboard to organize thoughts or speaking up to your boss about a slight adjustment, can be a new chapter where you're not just getting by at work, but truly thriving. If you found this episode helpful, or at least mildly entertaining, I mean, where else do you get career advice or with coin jar jokes, and meerkat analogies? Please share it with others who might benefit. Spread the word that neurodiversity in the workplace can be a strength, not a weakness. And if you share it to social media, make sure you tag me at authenticallyADHD_podcast so I can give you a huge virtual hug. And for your personal reflection, take a few minutes after this episode to think about your own journey. What careers or activities make you feel alive or engaged? What supports do you wish that you had? Jot them down. Self-awareness is golden. You might even write a note to your future self about what you need in a career to be happy. Thank you for listening to Authentically ADHD. Now go out there and find your path. Stay authentic, and we will talk soon.